Welcome back to Walnut Springs. My name is Mike, and today I want to show you how to replace a broken spoke on your mountain bike wheel. The other day out on the trail, my friend Josh wound up getting a couple of broken spokes, and whenever you're out on the trail and that happens, there's a real quick fix for the time being to get you out of the trail back to your car. And that's take the spoke that is broken and wrap it around a good spoke. You don't need to cut it off or take it off. Just wrap it around there, and that way you can continue your ride. Okay, the tools that you're gonna need to actually do this repair are the proper length and style of spoke. You might need spoke nipples depending on if the spoke nipple on your current wheel is damaged or not. You're definitely gonna need some sort of spoke wrench. There's two different types. This one has multiple sizes, and this one is a singular particular size. These are a lot easier to use, but these work really well. If you're doing the rear wheel like I am, you're gonna need some sort of tool to remove the cassette or the freewheel. And I'm also going to be using the same tool to remove the disc rotor as it is center lock. Some center lock rotors will use this particular style of tool, but on this particular wheel, it just uses a cassette tool to remove that center lock. Some brakes use 6-bolt. Actually, the majority of disc brakes are 6-bolt, so you might use an Allen key. If you do have to remove the wheel to install a new spoke nipple, or if the rim tape got damaged whenever your spokes got damaged, you will need new tire sealant or a new tube, and rim tape or Gorilla Tape to get the job done. So the other tool that is completely optional is a truing stand. This is not necessary, but it is good to have on hand. Now the first thing that I want to do is remove this cassette, because I'm going to need to be able to get behind the cassette to get to the hub to be able to lace in the brand new spoke. I do have a full video on how to remove a cassette or a freewheel from your bike. I'll put links right here for both of those. That one was on there pretty tight. Now that we've got the cassette removed, we have access to the spoke holes on this side of the hub. We just simply now have to remove the disc brake. And like I said, this one is center lock, but it uses a cassette tool to hold that disc brake on. So we'll go ahead and remove that. And it should just turn the exact same way, counterclockwise. Now it was much looser than the cassette was. Now that we've got the cassette off and the disc rotor off, we can kind of see a little bit better what needs to be done here. We can see this is the other broken spoke right here, and there's a little corresponding hole in the hub that spoke would go into. And this particular one that is broken looks like it comes back to right here. So now that we've identified the spokes that need to be replaced, we can very, very carefully start removing the spokes from the spoke nipple. So we're gonna try to do this without removing this tire, because the tire is still holding air. We know for a fact at this point it has not damaged the liner on the inside for this tubeless setup. So I'm gonna use these little vice grips to hold onto that spoke nipple while I remove the little tiny spoke end on this one. This particular one will be a little bit easier because the spoke is still fully intact. It's not actually cut, where this one broke way down here at the bottom. So for this particular one, it doesn't look like it wants to push back in, so that's really good. I don't want it to go in any further, so for the time being, I'm gonna try to hold it with these little vice grips. So one thing, make sure that you take note is whenever you're loosening spokes from spoke nipples, you're gonna go clockwise to loosen them and counterclockwise to tighten them. And I'm just gonna work this until the spoke actually comes out of the spoke nipple. Eventually this will get to where I can just hand loosen this. Let's see if I can. Yep, there we go. It's starting to pop out now. And there we go. Okay, now we can just untwist this spoke. Be careful, because these things will jab you if you're not careful. But they should just untwist real easy. By themselves, they're not super strong. So I'm gonna turn this up until we get to where that spoke actually is. And sometimes it's easier just to go ahead and cut the spoke, but we're gonna try to pop this through that spoke hole. There we go. Okay, so threading a spoke in can be kind of tricky and confusing at times. This is our spoke hole that we want to get our spoke into, and we want to come under this spoke, but over this spoke to make it up here to this spoke nipple. So when the rivet has to go on the outside, because you can see there's the end of the spoke, or what I'm referring to as the rivet, and then not one, and then that would be where a rivet or the end of the spoke is, and not one. So every other one is laced from the inside and then the outside. In this particular case, the two spokes that are broken all have to be laced going into the hub and then out, which can add some complexity when trying to bend these little spokes to get them in place. Don't worry, these things are fairly flexible, but the best way to do this is to aim down at this area that your spoke needs to go into. So if you see your hole right here, you need to go under this spoke. In this particular lacing pattern, the hole that you're gonna go into, and then it's gonna be 1, 2, 3. The third one up, you're gonna go under. 4, 5, you're gonna go over. So let's go ahead and let's try to get this in here without bending the spoke too much. So simply just lace it through here. And what I like to do is aim for this area right here, which is really narrow. So you'll just need to kind of get that as close as you can, bend it up, and then it should start to slide in. It doesn't look pretty all the time, but then it should curve just like that and lock into place. Now this is the spoke that we want to go under, and this is the one we want to go over to make it up to our spoke nipple. But in order to do that, to get it over there, we need to bend it back and get it out from underneath the wheel. So now that we're under this one, we can simply go over this one, and now we're in the right lineup to actually connect to the spoke nipple. And then we can take our spoke wrench and just easily put it onto the spoke nipple and start tightening it. You can tighten it just a little bit more with the spoke wrench. Then you can flip this to a more comfortable position for you to be able to tighten it. Now one thing you might want to do is mark this spoke so you know which one you put on. I just use some masking tape here and just wrap it around the spoke. That way I know, okay, this is the one that I replaced. So when I go to make sure the wheel is true, I can kind of focus on this particular area to make sure that that is looking good. And there you go, that spoke is on. I just have one more to replace, but that's how you replace your spoke. It's a relatively easy process. The trickiest part is making sure that you have the proper spoke for your bike whenever you go to replace it. And once you're done putting the spokes on, if you have a truing stand or if you have a way that you true your wheels, then you can go ahead and go through that process. And there you go, that is how you replace a broken spoke with a brand new spoke on your bike wheel. If you guys like this video, hit the thumbs up, leave me a comment below, let me know if you've ever done this before. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And any tools that I have used and parts that I have used in this video, I'll put some links down below. If you use those links, it does help out the channel. But as always, get out there, run, bike, build, and just have fun. We'll see you in the next one.